Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So today I'm gonna be setting up my journal for March, and I know this video is a bit later than usual, but I hope you still enjoyed, so let's get into it. This time I wanted to use a really bright and fun color palette to kind of just get me into the mood for spring, since the days are finally getting a bit longer again. So I chose some bright pastel colors as well as a light beige and a dark brown for the backgrounds and the borders. And then I'm also going to be using my black Pilot Juice pen as well as a white gel pen. As a theme for March, I picked tulips, which I've done in the past before, but I went for a much more playful and simple style this time, and I just love how it turned out in the end, so I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get into it. For the cover page, I started by just filling the whole page with tulips in different colors and making them into a pattern. So for the flowers, I chose a bright yellow, orange, purple, and pastel pink. And then for the stems, I'm going to be using this more muted light green, which I thought looked really nice together with all of the other colors. I kept the shape super simple, and then I also made sure that the tulips face in different directions vertically and then the same direction diagonally, if that makes sense. So for example, the first one faces to the right, then the next one underneath to the left, and so on. But I did also make a mistake twice, and I only corrected one of them, but I think it still turned out super cute and it's not really noticeable. I also used the same colors on the top to create a very subtle outline for the flowers, which I think just added the right amount of detail. The colors and the style I used this time kind of ended up reminding me of Animal Crossing, and I think they turned out super cute, so I hope you like them as well. For the colors, I planned them out beforehand so that there is never the same color right next to each other. So for me, I ended up adding all of the colors underneath in a line, and then I switched between the yellow and purple as well as the orange and pink on the diagonal axis. I hope that's not too confusing, but you can also pause the video later on and you can see the whole page. For this last tulip, I made it face in the wrong direction on accident, so I tried to fix it a bit with a white acrylic marker, and I think it worked out pretty well, but I think I could have also just left it. I think it's not really noticeable in the end. Next, I also used this light beige to add some lines in between the tulips and also to add some little sparkles to fill in some of the empty spaces. And I think in the end it looked a bit like embroidery or like a picnic blanket, and I thought that was pretty perfect for spring, so I was super happy with that. To finish off the page, I used some brown craft paper and wrote the title on top with my white gel pen, and then I just placed it into the middle of the page. Moving on to the next page, I'm making my usual planning sections. So first I used all of the colors, including the green, to color in the backgrounds for the sections. And each section is 10 spaces wide and 10 spaces tall. And then I left 2 spaces empty horizontally and 1 space vertically. I added 5 sections in total, 4 sections for my weekly tasks, and then 1 more for events in March on the bottom. And here I wrote down all of the titles in black. Next, I used the light beige to color in every other line, but I didn't end up really liking it, so in the end I cut out some scrap paper of one of my old bullet journals to size, and then I just covered up all of the boxes. I also didn't end up keeping those colored borders on the bottom of each section, so you can just ignore those for now. For the empty section on the bottom right, I wanted to add some more tulips in the same sort of pattern, but just on a smaller scale. But I used the same sort of method, and I just alternated the colors in the same way as on the cover page. Next, I first tried to cover up the lines with the acrylic marker again, but it didn't really work out that well, so again I ended up just covering the whole sections, but I first used the dark brown to also add some borders all around for the sections. I didn't actually film this part because I thought it would be a bit boring, but here are the final sections, and again I just used paper from an old journal, and the borders also help to conceal the edges of the paper. And that is it for these first 2 pages, so let's move on to my habit trackers. For the title, I first wrote down habits in white again on some brown craft paper, and then I placed it into the middle on the top. I also decorated the sides with some more tulips, and I placed 2 on each side, and also added a few more details with the light beige just like before. Underneath, I'm making my calendar style tracker as per usual, and I'm first writing down the weekdays on the top with the dark brown shade. I ended up using all of the colors as a background for the dates and the light beige for the days from February and April. Each day is 3 spaces wide and 3 spaces tall, and I'm just coloring in the first line of each row to write the dates on top later. Then I'm also adding some borders with the dark brown, which helps to just make the calendar look a lot more clean, and then I'm also writing down the dates in black again. The way this habit tracker works is I make a color code on the bottom, and personally I like to choose 4 daily habits, and so I assign each habit a color, and then I can color in a circle for every day when I completed that habit, and it just helps me to have a visual overview of which habits I ended up doing most and which ones I still need to work on at the end of the month. Here I'm crossing out the empty days on the top and bottom, and then I'm making my color code underneath the calendar like I just mentioned. I'm tracking my usual 4 habits, which are getting up around 9 AM, doing some sort of art practice, having a bit of movement or stretching, and keeping my screen time below 4 hours. And again, for example, if I got up around 9 AM, I will make a purple circle in that day, or just leave it empty if I didn't. On the very bottom of the page, I'm also adding 4 weekly habits, so I first colored in the background with a light beige, and then I wrote them on top in black. Again, I'm tracking the same habits as always, so making my weekly spreads, having a self-care day, working out 1 to 2 times per week, and also doing my weekly reset. Lastly, I'm adding 4 circles for each week underneath with the dark brown to track them, and then I can fill them in if I completed the habit or cross it out if I didn't. Next up, let's make my first weekly spread of March. So I first split the page into 8 equal sections, and I left the top left section empty for now, and then I colored in the background for the titles of my daily sections. I alternated between the purple, yellow, orange, and pink again, and then I added some borders with the dark brown again to keep everything consistent. The boxes are 10 spaces wide and 5 spaces tall, and I left 1 space empty between the boxes and the titles, and also in between each daily section vertically. Here I'm writing down the weekdays and the dates in black again, and in case you're ever looking for some inspiration for your weekly spreads, I try to post them every week in my community tab, so you can go ahead and check them out there. For the top left section, I used the light green as a background on the top, and I wrote March as a little title, and then I also added some more tulips below to decorate the page and break up the structure a little bit. Lastly, I used the light beige to add some very thin lines in every other section, and I ended up liking it a lot more than the thicker ones I did in the beginning, so I was really happy with how it turned out. And that is it for this setup, so here are just some close-up shots, and I really hope you enjoyed this video even though it was a bit late. I am currently in the process of finding a job, and it just takes up a lot of my time, but if you already created your setup, you can always just use this theme for next month if you want. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I hope I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!